Okay, so share my screen. Now, so this is the first time I've done Zoom to do a share my screen with a PowerPoint presentation. So let me see if you can you still see me on the side?
Yes, so now I see a PowerPoint presentation and you're on the right side in a small box.
Okay, awesome. And then let me see if I do, okay, so I'm gonna do show, right, home view. I'm gonna do this in my, how do you start it with the, oh, the slideshow's right here, right? Okay, now do you see it as a slideshow?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, awesome. Okay, so we'll give, this is another one that I have done for, or invited people to. Have you received the email yet with the PowerPoint presentation?
No.
No, okay. So it should be coming. Actually, I'll just go ahead.
Oh yeah, here it is.
Okay, perfect.
Just now came.
Okay. So let's see if anybody else joins, and if they don't, that's okay too. If they don't, then you can give me like feedback definitely at the end, and we can discuss this. And then if you like, and then if people do come, then I would love your feedback afterwards.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So when you got the file, did it just open up to the presentation? So it's not the it's not PowerPoint, but it's the slideshow.
All right, I have clicked on it. So do you want me to have that open as well, or do you want me to have your screen open?
No, you can have the screen open. So that's just in case someone dials in from the phone, then they can have it. But I really like to work with this piece here. So I started putting in the video because my goal and my overall vision for what I'm doing is that I'll be able to do this online and take it to both to heart partners and then take it to business. Ultimately, what I want to do with this is I want to be able to incorporate understanding men, understanding women, and then partnership, and create a curriculum that I can go to like the oil and gas industry and provide communication training so that way I can increase the effectiveness of people within their companies. And then the information as well will transfer to heart partners so that way I can have a dual track, and ultimately I'll be able to make money off of it as a oops, Bernadette's here. Let me admit her. Okay, good. Good morning, Bernadette. Are you able to hear us and see us? Bernadette?
Maybe not.
Let's see. Oops. I said, oh, okay, we cannot hear you. Can you check your settings? So it looks like Bernadette can see and hear us. And actually, Randy, can you see my screen and can you see the chatting?
No, I just see you, my phone, which is me. So it's like this is a rectangular screen on the right-hand side. And I see Bernadette O'Donnell's picture. And that's in, and I see the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So I don't see you guys chatting anywhere.
Okay, cool. That's good for me to know. Well, let's see. Bernadette, I'm gonna chat with you just a quick, and I'll read it as well. Since we can't hear you, there'll be some interactive parts here, and if you can use your chat feature, then we can at least have the interaction that way. Does that work for you? Perfect. Awesome. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have some people joining us in a little bit. I know it's Sunday morning, and I just want to thank you guys for joining me on Sunday morning. This is my first time to use Zoom, so I thank you for your patience as we work through some of the technical challenges. I think that Zoom is going to be really nice because it has the ability to see each other if you choose to, and then also we have the ability to chat. So without further ado, what I'll do is I will keep an eye to make certain that if anyone does join us, I'll let them in. So you may see me being a little bit not as focused as you might expect on here. So I'm going to keep an eye on that so we can let people in, and then I'll work the presentation.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So today we're talking about the Heart of Partnership, and let me change this. Next slide. Okay. This work is based off of the work of Alison Armstrong, and she's been designing and leading transformational programs since 1991. And I have to put on my glasses because I'm at that age where I need bifocals, and I have my notes over here. So give me just a sec. Okay. So Alison Armstrong has been designing and leading these programs since 1991, and I'm in the personal mastery course, so I need to go out on my own, do research to validate the findings and to enhance my understanding of the material. The mastery course is called the Heart of Partnership, and there are 8 components of partnership. And you can see here I like to let people know where we are and where we're going. So today we are in the 4th one, and the topic is using pressure and release on purpose for partnership, and what prevents us from communicating authentically. And certainly you can apply these concepts to any relationship or any partnership, whether it's a one in your casual acquaintances or in your business. Today, what we want to focus on is how we can apply these concepts to our heart partners. And a heart partner is someone that you really love and that you care for. So it could be your spouse, it could be a child, it could be a friend. It's really where your heart is the most vulnerable when it comes to expressing your innermost heart's desires, where you're risking being hurt. And the reason we want to focus on that is because if we can understand how to more effectively work with people who are our heart partners, we can really increase the power and potency of those relationships and create win-win situations for everyone. So here's how today will work. This is interactive, and it's certainly Bernadette, just so you know, Randy's my brother, in full transparency. And Randy, do you want to tell Bernadette a little bit about yourself? Or take about 30 seconds.
My name's Randy. I live in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm the father of 4 children, a girl and 3 boys. I'm a captain with the New Mexico State Police Investigations Bureau, and I've been with them for 12 years. I've been married for 18 years, well, coming up on 18 years to my wife, April, and that's about it.
Thanks. And Bernadette, Randy is one of my heart partners. So Bernadette, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And I see that you're unmuted. I don't know if we can still.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. I have 4 children, and I have 4 with 5 grandchildren on the way. No, 1 more on the way. And I am looking for a partner right now. So I work in wellness and help people physically and emotionally. And I'm excited to hear from you, Roxanne, today.
Thank you, Bernadette. And Randy, just so you know, Bernadette's also in our mastery course, which is really great. Which track are you on?
I'm on the men's, understanding men.
Excellent, excellent. I love that curriculum. That's actually one of the things that hooked me into Allison's work. So excellent. Well, thank you. Okay, so today will be interactive. I'll present some information, and then there'll be some activities that I'll ask you to participate in. And I invite you to share whatever you feel like sharing and to what degree you feel like sharing. And if you have a piece of paper and a pen, you can feel free to write questions as we go. So without further ado, we will move on. So Randy, I'm going to ask you to please read this slide.
Okay, using pressure and release on purpose for partnership. What prevents us from communicating authentically? Most of us avoid using our pure pressure and instead attempt to manipulate others with variations on intensity, volume, emotion, logic, history, or not letting up, to name a few. Examine your go-to methods and routines in order to discover an honest and conscious expression of your pure pressure as a more empowering way to communicate in partnership.
Thank you. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to move to the next one. And Bernadette, if you would read this, that would be awesome.
Is that shtick? Find yours.
Exactly. Thank you. So what's a shtick?
Yeah, what is it?
So a shtick is a Yiddish word for a comedy routine. And it's basically, we're going to explore our shticks on how we manipulate people to do what we want. And it's how we get to turn a no into a yes. And the reason we're calling it a shtick is because we want to laugh about it and we want to develop a sense of humor about it. This topic is actually a really, really uncomfortable topic for us to explore. Because it's yucky. And so we don't necessarily want to see this side of ourselves because no one wants to believe that they manipulate people, right? I believe I'm a really strong integrity person. I'm straightforward. So why would I manipulate someone? But the reality is that we do it. So we want to be able to laugh with it because it makes it easier to interact with the information. And then we can also, if we can find our shticks and kind of notice our shticks, then we can notice what the people that we love, what their shticks are. We can develop a sense of humor of it and maybe even hold each other accountable for calling each other on our shticks in a fun way. And shtick is really uncomfortable and it's important because it can have devastating effects on a relationship and in a partnership. A 49-year-old woman shared this with me. I never realized I had a shtick. I never asked for anything more than once because I considered it nagging, which I hate. I'd ask for one thing, and if it didn't happen, which was usually, I'd get upset, and then I'd attack. My favorite one was, if you can't do it, then I'll do it myself, or I'll find someone else to do it. And my husband became silent when I would do this. And that's when I started realizing things were bad. He wasn't talking with me because I was hurting him and I didn't know it. And the cumulative effect of our shticks on each other was the destruction of a 22-year marriage. We're now separated with divorce on the way, and I'm heartbroken beyond belief. So today we won't necessarily figure out what to do about shticks. What we're going to learn is our brains learn by comparison and contrast. And until we recognize the opposite of honest expression of pressure, which is manipulation, until we can feel it in our bodies and tell ourselves the truth about it and laugh about it, we're going to have a difficult time expressing honest pressure and using it consciously. So in July, that'll be our next topic. That's where we'll explore ways to honestly express pressure and learn to consciously release it. And the reason I tell you that now is because when you walk out of our session today, you'll have a lot to think about. And the goal is to be able to notice it as opposed to having a solution. A solution comes next month. So I'd like to create a framework for our discussion today by first outlining what the heart of partnership proposes. So what is our thesis? And this is a huge, huge statement. So I'm going to read it slowly. And actually, I'm going to ask us to read it together, and I'll count down. Oh, I see you, Bernadette. There you are.
Yay.
So I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. And then what we'll do is we will read it together. Ready? 3, 2, 1. The possibility.
Heart of partnership proposes. The possibilities and power of partnership
are
limited and expanded
by what
each of the partners are accountable for,
being,
listening, and speaking.
Excellent. So let's define that. There's a lot packed into that statement. Basically what it says is that how great or small our partnerships can be are really dependent on what each of us are accountable for embodying or being, listening, and speaking. And so I want to distinguish the difference between a partnership and a relationship, because there are some important differences between them. Relationships really are characterized by expectations. So whether they're met or unmet, whether they are conscious or otherwise, and whether they're spoken or unspoken, it's really a characterization of a relationship. Partnerships, on the other hand, it's the way that we interact with expectations, and we create the accountability there in the way that we react with, or interact with them. Relationships really happen naturally. So there are many great reasons to have a relationship. You might just want to go and hang out with your friend one day, or maybe you're with someone so that way you're not alone. There's survival in numbers, power in numbers. But what distinguishes a relationship from a partnership is that the partnership are 2 or more people that are creating something together. It's not something that they can do alone. They can't have someone that they employ to make it happen. It's really a joint effort between the 2 of them, where they share in the risks and the rewards of their effort. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like a big artistic enterprise. Like, one of my heart partners is my best friend, and she and I create big shows together. So it doesn't have to be something like that. It can be a man and a woman who are creating a life together. So they're invested in their reality. And that's kind of how we're distinguishing relationship from partnership. Partners are in creating something together. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because, Randy, I know you've heard this one several times, and Bernadette, you're definitely familiar with Al's work. This picture basically just depicts the duality of human nature, that on one side we have human animal, which is based on survival and instinct, and then on the other side we have human spirit, which is where we can choose, and this is where partnership relies. Partnership is definitely an expression, one of the highest forms of expression of human spirit. And what we're choosing is to choose partnership as a response in the presence of tension. So I just want to kind of put that out there to kind of set the framework. And then this one right here, just again to recapture what we said a few moments ago, is that relationships are really a state of compulsion. They're human animal, whereas partnership is really that expression of human spirit, and it's a state of choice. Okay, so the heart partners. Bernadette, will you read this for me?
Sure. If they can, without sacrificing themselves, they will.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is the first assumption that we have to start with when we come out with partnership. Basically, when we ask for our partners for something we need or want, if we're starting in a place of human spirit and partnership, our first assumption will be that the answer is yes. If they can, without sacrificing themselves, they will. So essentially the answer is yes. What do you need? Now, this is typically the opposite of what we do from human animal. So again, the brain learns from comparison and contrasting. So I'm going to use this time now to kind of explain the difference. So what we typically do is the opposite. We typically come from a place of turning, and the answer is going to be no. So how do we turn it into a yes? And it's really adversarial because it's coming from a place of a human animal, and it's manipulation. So I'll give you an example. My husband, David, he is an amazing guy, and he is an IT person. He does all of my things and fixes my computers all the time, anything I need. So my computer, my desktop, was in a point where it needed to be updated. And I asked David if he would update it for me. And he said, sure, I'll go ahead and I'll do that. And I thought to myself, well, my laptop needs it too. So I verbally asked him, well, do you mind doing my laptop as well? And he said, one thing at a time, I'm going to do your desktop. And so I said, well, don't worry about the laptop. I'll go to the Geek Squad and I'll get them to do it. I can hire that out. You just worry about this. So, of course, I was an asshole at that moment. And I had to go and clean it up. So my shtick was, well, I knew that if I told him that he would get upset and he'd do it anyway and he'd be angry and I'd get what I wanted. So I could turn his no into a yes. And it was not a very nice way to do it. So if I had recognized that his resistance wasn't a no, but that it was, I need to do one thing at a time because I only have a certain amount of time. You've asked me to do 15 things. So my priority is your desktop because that's what you use. And then next month I can get to your laptop. Then I would have been better in terms of responding to it. So I'm going to look at the left or the right hand side under human spirit, and the final bullet point there is to respect or become curious to a no. So if I would have become curious to his no or his resistance and said, well, tell me more, and employed my human spirit to say, okay, let's not react, I could have understood that the answer wasn't no, it was actually yes, just when I'm able to, then I could have had a different outcome with him. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't have had to go clean it up. So, does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically our default is to go to human animal. It's basically automated. We can do this without thinking. And no one, again, as I mentioned, wants to believe that we're manipulative, but we really are. So we want to notice what it is and how it works in order to employ our free will to do something different. Okay. I'm about ready to go through this process so that to the degree that you're able, you want to be able to see how it works across the board. You want to see how you fall for it, because typically what your shtick is what you'll fall for. And you want to see the impact that it has. And it can also be confused with other things. And the reason you want to do this is so that way you can get in touch with the energy behind it. When we start to use our shtick, we'll typically have an engine that revs up, and it can be confused with pressure, which is what we'll talk about next month. And if you don't distinguish what you're trying to do to turn a no into a yes, it won't work very well when we talk in July. So just a second, I'm going to go close my door because there's about ready to be some noise in my home. And it'll be distracting. So this one right here, it's basically, as Bernadette said, what's this shtick, right? So here's some of the most popular ones. Logic. So if I'm asking someone for something I need, in the case of David and the computer, well, I logically needed to have my laptop done at the same time because it was very slow and it was hindering me to be able to do things. That would be an example. Comparison. Well, you know, your brother does it so much better than you, so you should be able to do it too. Historical case, so that's the elephant syndrome. I have done so many things for you that you owe this to me. You need to be able to do it for me. Or you've disappointed me so many times. Remember 4 years ago? Now you owe this to me. Humor. You know, I think you should go ahead and do this because it'll make us all really happy. Or I like Randy, you told me about a shtick that you use in fun, and for your kids, sometimes you say, if you don't do this, the tickle monster is going to come and get you, which was super fun. Or one that's least fun, berating. I've asked you for so many times. Like typically what people will do, my mother is a great example, is she'll ask for something. And instead of having a predictable rise of escalated pressure, she'll just explode and then berate. See, you can't do anything about this. So shticks are not necessarily always terrible. Sometimes they're fun, but we just use them in different ways. Do you guys have ideas or examples of shticks that you can see?
Go ahead, Bernadette.
I can't think of the specifics, but I know, I told my daughter, I'm putting myself out for you to do this, so you better do it.
It's of guilt, right?
Yeah.
Randy, what are some?
Well, and we've talked about this before, because we have a good sized house, and with 4 kids, it's always messy, and I hate it. It drives me crazy more than probably anything in the world. And so, that was something that we were doing Friday night, so we could have a little more relaxing Saturday as we were cleaning. And of course, the whole time, and I'm also kind of a minimalist a little bit. I think I have just too many things, too much stuff these days. And I just read a book on minimalism, and I think just the logic, and I think of logically, spaces should be clean and neat, which is why, and the logic to that to me is like, well, when it's crunch time and we have to get out of the house, and now so-and-so can't find their shoes, or now we can't find our keys. I'm like, well, if this place was super clean, you'd know where your shoes are. Like you would just, because logically, that's just the way things should be. And that's the way my mind is. I know not everybody's like that. But I use probably a lot of these different things in my mind, whether it's comparison. I probably don't tell them comparison. I'm not like, oh, we walk into the Smith's home and their house is always clean. What do their kids do? But I know that there are different families that have different, protocols and things that they do to kind of keep things in order, because it's very hard. It's just, life is moving all the time, and it's just hard to stay on top of things. And then of course, that is when we're racing around looking for hats or shoes or lunches, and no one likes that. And so I'm like, well, the way to prevent that logically is to just prepare and to keep everything in where it goes. And then our stress levels will be low when it's crunch time. You know what I'm saying? Like when it's time to get moving, or someone shows up unexpectedly. There's probably numerous reasons why. So I probably use a wide variety of all of these, except for humor. I don't think there's anything funny about messes, but I don't think I can make light of that very well. But when I think of just, I think logic, and then of course just, I am prone to hyperbole. So certainly I'll say like, oh, the family room upstairs looks like Syria. Have you guys seen pictures of Syria? Well, that's what the family room looks like, And so, of course, they know I'm kind of kidding a little bit. Obviously, that's overboard. But anyways, that's one example.
That's a great example. And actually, I love the ridiculousness of your home being compared to Syria. And so, but it makes me laugh, right? It gets your point across. So I can see how that would be a shtick as well. And that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
Excellent. So shtick, how does it work? So now that we've identified kind of what those things are and some of our favorites that we employ, how does it work? Well, I want to bring us back to the concept of partnership, because at the end, it always ends with the same thing. So partnership is that two people are creating something together that they can't create without each other. So it's always going to end, every single time, it's going to end with something along the lines of, I'm all alone, I'm independent, I'll do it myself. So Karen Stick, Karen is 52 and she lives in Germany. She has 3 children and she's in the process of getting a divorce. So with her children, she'll ask nicely without increasing pressure, and then she explodes in a rage of fury, kind of like mom. And sometimes she says her shtick starts with an ask, and then she gets a no. So it starts with the ask, and then she gets a no. And so then she adds guilt into it. So I've done this and this and this for you. I'm your mother. You need to do it for me. And then if that doesn't work, then she moves to blame. So, you know, I can't believe that you're doing this. It's really bad. How could you not give this to me? If that doesn't work, then she'll move to consequences. So, okay, fine. If you don't do this for me, you're grounded for 5 years, forever. She also noticed that she doesn't use rewards as part of her shtick because she doesn't trust her children to pull through. So she'll never use that. She only uses consequences. And then finally, after she's gone through, I've asked you nicely, now my shtick starts, or now I've given you guilt, now I give you blame, and now I give you consequences. She explodes in a rage of fury, and it ends with, fine, never mind, I'll do it myself. So that's kind of the way it works. And the problem with that is that it flies in the face of partnership. So if the reality is that you're in cohorts with your partner and you want to create a life together that you love, or you're creating something that you want to show, like a show, in the case of my best friend and I, that you can't do it without each other. And if you start from the thought that the answer is no, and so you have to figure out a way to turn that no into a yes. So I'm going to ask for something. If that's no, then I'm going to do blame, then I'm going to use humor, then I'm going to do this. And ultimately, I'm at the end anyway. There's no way that you can be in partnership. And the contrast is that you start with, I'm going to ask for something I need. And the answer is yes. What do you need? If I can do it without sacrificing myself, I will. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to ask you to go inside and see how you feel. So pretend inside your mind's eye that you're going to ask someone that you love for something, and start with the answer is no, and how am I going to get it to a yes? So go ahead and do that. And I want you to notice how it feels inside. And I'm talking emotionally, I'm talking physically, I'm talking mentally, just that feeling that's being evoked. And Bernadette, I'm going to let you go first. What does it feel like for you?
It feels sad. It feels angry.
Yeah. Randy, how about you?
Frustration.
Frustration? Yeah. Kind of yucky. So take a breath. And now what I'd like to invite you to do is, it's the same person that you just asked. And I want you to envision inside of your mind's eye that you're asking this person that you love, and that you know the answer is yes, that if they can without sacrificing themselves, they will. And what do you need? So take a moment to walk through that process in your mind's eye and see how it feels. And Bernadette, how does it feel for you?
It's great. My heart opens up. There's light. I feel really excited and great. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Awesome. Awesome. And Randy, how about you?
Much better, relaxed, hopeful.
Nice. Very nice. Excellent. So when you feel this relaxation or this opening of your heart and you're happy about it, you can see that you don't have to go through and do your shtick, right? You just have to ask. And then next month, what we'll talk about is how can you effectively start from this place of, yes, if I can, I will. And then how can you apply real pressure as opposed to shtick? So that'll be the topic for next month. I'm going to move to the next slide, and we're just going to talk a little bit about what you can do. The first thing to know is that shtick happens. As I mentioned at the beginning, human animal is our default. So shtick's going to happen. So my invitation to you for the next month is to start to notice when you feel that energy that we just felt, because when you feel it and you notice it, that's when you can employ your free will to direct what you're going to do next. And you can choose partnership. So, for example, with my husband and the computer, when he said, not right now for your laptop, I could have taken a breath, recognized in myself, okay, this is happening. So you told me no. I'm curious. Can you tell me more about that? Can you clarify for me? And if I would have done that, then I would have had a different outcome. So start thinking about your shtick, and then start noticing as well about your partners, the people that you love in your life. What are those shticks? What do they do? And then if you're committed to partnership with them, I would challenge you and invite you to make an agreement with your heart partner to create accountability with each other. So that way you can call each other on your shticks when it's happening in a fun way. And that way you can make light of it and you can choose something else. And I'll give you an example. And Randy, thank you for giving me permission to share stuff about us. I really appreciate it. So Bernadette, as I mentioned, my brother and I are heart partners. He agreed to do this with me for this year. And one of the things that we noticed is that we're great together alone when it's just he and I. But when we have other family members, like my husband or my mom or, my brother, if they're in the room, that what we typically end up doing is things can get really, really nasty, right? So we can just get big explosions and we go to our shtick. So Randy and I decided to create accountability with each other that as we do when we're alone, one-on-one, and we bring out the best in each other, we're committed to bringing out the best in each other, regardless if other family members are around. And the way that we are going to do it is to call each other in a fun way about the shtick. Say, hey, Rox, I noticed you're kind of talking like a jackass. Do you mean to? And then that way I can take a deep breath and I can say, you're right. I was getting defensive. Let's start over. So I'm looking forward to that, Randy. And I thank you for that partnership because it means a lot to me. Because what we're creating, Bernadette, is we're creating a great family together.
Super. I acknowledge you both. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. And Randy, I hope you're excited about it.
Indeed.
So I'd like to leave you with this story. And this is from a gentleman by the name of Michael. And he is 59 years old. I met him actually when I was at a work conference and I was just having dinner and he was sitting next to me and we got into this conversation, and the next morning we had breakfast and we saw each other again. And during that I said, I'm going through this master certification course. Would you mind being on my research panel? So I don't even know this guy from Adam. And he said, sure. So once a month I call him, and he lives in Florida, and he has been a great, unbiased, doesn't know me from Adam type person to be in the research panel. So the story he told me was, after I explained to him shtick, he said, when my wife of 22 years goes into shtick, she's a fighter, I withdraw. And I notice that the more I withdraw, the more intense she is to engage me, and she increases her intensity. And the effect of me is to say to myself, oh my God, here we go again. Why am I even in this relationship? Part of me wants to be with her until the end of time. But when this happens, I want to leave. I want to be on my own. And I want to explore the world. After what you've shared with me, I realize it's important to me to become an observer of when my wife goes into her shtick, because only then can I access compassion and see her for who she is and not get caught up in my own emotions.
Wow.
So over the next month, I invite you to take this and to apply it. And we'll talk next month about how to use honest expression of pressure. Do you have any questions or any final comments, anything that we didn't get to today?
No, it was very, very good, Roxanne. And it's very timely for me too, because I'm going over to my daughter's house, and I've heard she's mad at me for something that I felt really good about. So I know I'll be listening for the sticks in my own.
Awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
thank you.
Good luck with that. I know with our children, it's our gut. That is procreate. That's human animal. And I wish you all the best with that and creating partnership and just noticing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Randy, do you have any insight or anything you'd like to share?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Well, I thank you both. I wish you the best for the rest of your Sunday morning, and I will send out invitations for the next one if you're interested in coming. I anticipate it'll be the last part of July.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Roxanne. This is great. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Happy Sunday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.